Hey guys, welcome to the Money Tree. I'm David Holt.
And I'm David Marks.
And we are, well, he is the Money Tree expert.
Expert. I've graduated.
Well, you know more about money than
I do have a PhD in my office.
Of what?
A PhD.
Really? What does that stand for?
It's in Mayberry Studies. Funny story to that. When I was in college, Andy Griffith Show always been one of my favorite shows. My college roommate ordered this PhD degree to hang in my office that was a doctorate in Mayberry Studies.
Is that because you know those trivial facts about the Andy Griffith Show?
Most of them, yes. And because I could walk around singing most of Ernest T. Bass songs. So
maybe I need to order me one and have a PhD. You know, if it's probably worth the paper it's printed on, right?
Right. My dad also has a PhD in his building, but post-hole diggers, unfortunately, don't give you a pay raise.
I used to have some, and my kids broke the handle.
Well,
so anyway,
you had a PhD, but it's broken.
It's broken. PhD.
Right. We're so glad you guys have tuned in today. We want to thank the folks at Farmers TV and at Mountain Valley Newspaper for hosting us and allowing us to do this from week to week.
Even though our camera guy made us wait a full hour while he had lunch, and then he forgot the iPad and didn't put the card in the camera, so we've waited an hour.
Right, but you know, if when you pray for patience, God doesn't just give you patience. He doesn't saw off the top of your head and pour it in. He gives you lessons in life to teach you patience. So you must have prayed for patience.
I don't like him.
He must have prayed for patience. I don't know. Maybe next time you need to pray for wealth.
We're both educators, and this is the last week of regular school.
Yes.
You have to work a few days. I have to work a few days, but the kids are out for summer.
Sure.
Trying to get the city pool ready. That's my job in the summer, and I've got to go do that in just a little bit, but we're a little delayed, so I've got to get home and get ready for that.
So when you get those guys and girls ready to work at the pool, do you talk to them about how much they're going to be making every hour, or do you talk to them?
In the interview process, we explain that this is your rate of pay, and I talk about scheduling and the responsibilities. Sure. And pool safety is the number one priority.
Absolutely. We want to make sure those kids stay safe as they swim, but that's also a free advertisement. Come to Rainsville Pool this summer.
Rainsville City Pool is going to be, just spent a great deal of money renovating. It was built in 1974. This is the first major renovation that has been done to that since then. It's going to be a great place to come and hang out, bring your family, friends, and reserve for your own private pool parties.
Right, and that's one thing about the small communities like we have, like Rainsville here, is they work hard at providing civic things, opportunities for families to get into and do things together, and of course a place for kids to go during the summer when it's hot outside and they can cool off in the nice water.
Yes, only $3.
Only $3.
Hey, so that's less than $1 an hour to swim in a big pool that you don't have to maintain. And I know I had one when I was growing up at home, and guess who got to maintain the pool?
You did.
It's a lot of work.
So now he hires lifeguards to do all the
I do the chemicals and stuff, but I do make them do the cleaning out the skimmers and
vacuuming out the pool.
It's really called the ool because there's no pee in our pool.
That's right. I started to say something about that a minute ago. I asked you if you use chlorine, but I decided not to. So speaking of kids and pools and all things
that's a good segue right into our topic today.
That is.
We're talking about children, right?
Children today. So here is a question. You always know that I have something to ask. Let's say, and I'm going to draw from your expertise today. So you're going to be the expert. I'm going to be the expert receiver's comments.
Okay, so he's making fun of me because I never know the answer to the question.
That's not true.
But
help me. Like 3.
help me get into the question I'm supposed to know about.
Okay, let's say that there is a man and woman get married, and they decided it's time for us to start a family. So they decide to have children. How do they need to financially prepare to start that family, to have that child?
I don't think you can financially prepare for children.
Okay. So
that's not the answer he wanted to hear.
That was actually a little bit of a curveball, and as you can obviously see, I took a swing and I totally missed. So what I was more...
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I mean, when you get married, my wife and I can just speak for us.
Sure.
been married once, and
Sure.
hopefully she'll keep me a little longer.
Sure.
We were married about 4 years before we decided to have children.
Right. And do you feel like that's a wise decision to wait and maybe get to know each other a little bit and to travel as much as you want to and do the things you want to do?
I think it was good for us. You know, everybody has their own.
Sure,
I guess I'm giving a
absolutely.
political answer here. Everybody has their own personal opinions on those. But I think it's good to get to know your spouse, because the purpose is to have that spouse forever.
Sure.
It doesn't always happen, but that's the plan. And so if you get to know them, hopefully that'll help, because it's stressful with children.
Right, and we know that one of the bigger contributors to adding stress to the home is finances.
Yes.
So if you not only take two people who may not know each other very well, you drop in another third person who doesn't know either one of them, and they don't know that person because it's
And
new.
they cry a lot, and they spit up on you,
and they smell sometimes.
And you get to clean
And
it
you
up.
get to clean all that up. Then on top of that, you've got to try to pay for it. And that is a big obstacle, we know, because paying for children can be expensive.
Well, let me give you an example. One of the things we do at my job as a career coach is we do these activities called Mad Money.
Sure.
And so we bring young people in, and we give them a pretend job, and we give them a pretend family. And so they have to spend money at every station, you know, for your mortgage, your utilities, your food, and those kinds of things. And all of them that have a child have to pay for childcare.
Right.
And
right.
they were like, "Can I sell my baby?"
Right.
I'm like, "No, you cannot
Yes.
sell it. You cannot give it away. You have to keep that child." And they're all amazed at how expensive diapers, formula,
Yes.
childcare. Most of them say, "Well, I'm just going to let it stay with grandmother."
Right.
But you know, that's not always an option.
Well, in the world that we live in, everyone loves the word free, but we also know that really nothing is free.
Nothing is free.
So even if they stay with a grandparent, someone's going to have to feed that child, whether it be the grandparent pay for it or you.
Mm-hmm.
So here's one thing I want to throw at you, okay? And if we can, let's pull up our first slide.
First slide, okay.
Looking at our first slide, we can see that it takes $233,610. That is an estimated cost to take a child from birth to age 17 without college cost.
You know, we have 3 kids.
Right.
We spent a lot of money.
You did. You definitely went over the $500,000 mark, and we're well on your way to the $750,000.
But I love them. I love
Absolutely. Well, the biggest thing is of course we want to encourage people to have a family. We just want them to be prepared for that, so the blow is not so hard when they do.
them. Okay.
So looking at that average on a yearly basis, that's
Mm-hmm.
$13,741.16 on average per year. So if you're making minimum wage and you're wanting to start a family, you know that it's going to be very difficult to support your family, including your child.
Right.
With
right.
$13,000 a year, that's $1,145 and some change a month. So, you know, if we look at a $2,000 a month budget and we think of a mortgage of not wanting to go over 25% of that, so $500 would be what we would pay for our house.
Yeah.
You're paying double that for your child.
For your child.
Now, of course, this is all going to be within statistical data that's produced by the...
That was a nice word.
Statistical data.
I'm impressed.
You know,
That's a real word, too.
It is. It's almost the end of the school year, and I can still pull out those words just
There you
like
go.
that.
There you go.
So I did find out in my research in this, because we do research before we
Yes.
do every program, that one of the cheap...
He does the research. You're the research guy.
I do some research on this from now and then. And the research I found come from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they show that there's different areas of the country that's more expensive than others. Of course,
Right.
the West Coast would probably be more cost of
Right.
living, things like that. So where do you think would be the cheapest region or the least expensive region to raise a child?
North Alabama.
Well, North Alabama would be included in that. It didn't pinpoint.
The rural area, I guess.
Rural areas is
Okay.
exactly right. The average cost to raise a child in most areas across the country, $233,000. Rural areas, $193,000.
Okay.
So it's a pretty big difference there.
Yes, it is.
$40,000 difference in what you're looking at to raise a child in an urban setting compared to a rural area.
Okay.
Now, a lot of that will be attributed to if you live in an urban area, it costs you more. Most parents will have to work. More parents may put their children in daycare. To where in a rural area, mom may stay home. Grandparents may watch them. You know, there's
Right.
probably a lot of a nuclear family unit that stays there closer.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one thing that we see. Coming off of that, though, we know that on average, even if it takes $190,000 to raise your child from birth to age 17 without college cost, that's another $100,000, roughly, ballpark.
That's why it's so important to keep those ACT scores up.
and GPAs up, kids.
Right.
Mom and dad don't just say that for a reason. You know, they've got a purpose. That children are expensive. They are so expensive.
Well, and you know, as they get older, there's ball that they want to do. There's dance. There's band. There's music lessons. There's I want that pair of shoes.
Sure.
As they get older, it just gets more and more expensive.
So I'm glad you segued twice. That's like boom, boom. 10 bonus points, 10 bonus points.
Well, thank you.
You've done good today. See, I can compliment
thank you.
sometimes.
Usually it's not that, but thank you. I appreciate it.
You did. You segued great because now we're going to look at our second slide.
Okay.
Looking at this second slide, we see that children are expensive. And 29% goes into housing, mostly in the cost of an extra bedroom, that child.
Right.
The estimated amount of that is $67,746.
Wow.
So basically what you're paying for a house, or what I might pay for a starter home, that's what you're going to pay to house that child.
You know they use a lot of hot water in the shower.
They do. Teenagers maybe more.
A lot of electricity, you know, to keep the hot or gas, whatever it is. And then now they all want a device.
Sure. Well,
we give devices at such a young age.
Sure, and that adds to the cost. So I would say that probably between now and maybe, I have a nephew that's not even a year old yet. He will be in August. But by the time that he's 17 years old, you'll see those costs increase because the utilities will be more expensive, A, because of inflation, but B, because of the laptops and the Bluetooths and the tablets and the InstaChats and the Snapgrams and the Facebooks. Or as I tell them,
you know, they look at them and say, we adults, older, well, myself, not necessarily you, technology is kind of a scary thing, but these young kids, even the little preschoolers, they can operate the games and stuff so much quicker.
They're born being able to manipulate those flat screen glass displays. What do you think the number 2 expense is?
Oh my goodness.
It's not toilet paper.
I guess I'm going to say food.
Food and groceries would be, yes.
Okay.
And that's great because, you know, not only do you have to house them, you also have to feed them. And
you know a funny story, I'm going to share this one.
Sure, I want
true
you to.
Story.
Yes.
My youngest son, it didn't matter what we ordered for him, he always came and stood beside me and ate what I had on my plate. My wife would say, why don't you just order him an adult plate? Which I guess I should have. But, you know, I ate less, but we shared what he ate, what he had, but he would look, I want to try that, I want to try that. And he's been our best eater.
Sure.
And so that's a funny story.
Well, and the reason why I say that, to feed, and if we still have the slide up there, if we don't, to feed a 15 to 7-year-old on average, just between that age range, for a year, you're looking at about $2,790. So almost $3,000 to feed a 15-year-old teenager.
If you're talking about a teenage boy, it's more than that.
It was probably more than that.
I'm telling you, and you have kids that are always at your house. If you will cook, they will come. And they want you to cook X, Y, and Z, and they eat it all, and there's no leftovers.
Sure. Well, and this is probably, you know, you're taking an average here across our country. So, you know, my mom cooked when we were growing up. So you're looking at an average of people who dine out compared to people who had, you know, homegrown corn on the cob and you know, the meat and three kind of mentality. So which is cheaper on that end. So it's that $27.90.
And as you've learned, budgeting, going out to eat is very expensive. It's much cheaper to cook it at home.
Yes, it is.
See, I have learned that.
You've done.
And I almost ate out last night, and I didn't. I thought, I'm going home. I'm going to save my money.
Well, I'll tell you what I did for myself Wednesday.
Okay.
This was I typically try to have a David night where I do something and I have to go out to eat or something like that. Wednesday,
David yourself night.
Yes. Third person.
This David has not been invited to the David night, but you know.
I haven't thought about that. Maybe we should do that. Well, Wednesday was a crazy day at school, so I could have went out and had a steak, a good-sized steak, and a baked potato. What do you think that would have probably cost me?
Oh my goodness! Depending on where you go, I would say in the neighborhood $25 to $30.
Right. But instead, I went home, cooked 2 ribeyes, 3 baked potatoes, and 3.
Whoa! 2 ribeyes and 3 baked potatoes? Are you eating all of that, or did you share it with somebody?
I ate every bit of it.
For real?
Yeah. So anyway,
his metabolism hasn't caught up to my age metabolism. There's no way I could eat 2 steaks and 3 baked potatoes.
and I had 3 corn on the cob. Here's the corn on the cob.
Oh my gosh!
I bought a dessert, but I was full by the time.
I would hope so.
But I had about $14 in that meal.
Well,
So cooking at home was a lot less expensive than if I had went to a restaurant and ate that.
yes, yes.
So all that being said is, when you have children and you go out to eat, it just multiplies that
Listen,
expense.
I know when we go out to eat, my sons and their wives, and my daughter and her boyfriend, and my wife, and usually my mother. You know, there's a hefty check that comes my
So
way.
what you're telling me is, if you had some strange kid just get in the vehicle and go, you probably wouldn't notice the difference.
Probably wouldn't.
Maybe we should start doing that. You know, those who
Listen,
work here.
from the time my boys were teenagers, there's always somebody else in the car.
Sure,
Always.
sure.
So there was
You even had a nephew stray along
on
sometimes.
occasion, but I don't think you ate 2 steaks and 3 baked potatoes and 3 ears of corn.
Well, I'm grown now, so I can eat a little bit
You're
more.
a big man.
That's right. Yeah. So the next thing that we see is something you've covered, which is childcare. And childcare, you know, from the time of that birth to the time that they're 17 years old, you're looking at $37,378, which is almost $40,000. So you've almost spent $40,000, another half of a house, starter home, just on babysitting childcare.
And you know, I hate to say this, but as you were talking, I'm thinking that's a great job for someone. Open
Sure.
up a child care facility or a daycare in your home,
Right.
because there are all kinds of people looking for someone to keep their children.
Well, if you are a good business manager, and especially if you're willing to get an associate's degree in early childhood or something that you could really put to use, that would be a good business model that you might can establish.
There's an idea.
Because there's ways to do that. You know, now in Alabama we have the pre-K programs, and the development of that probably came along with parents wanting something for their children to go to,
Yeah.
but also where they could learn something too. I think when I was in kindergarten, they were just happy if we did lay down for nap time and didn't fight or something.
My mother taught first grade for years, so she made us read and that kind of deal.
So here's the $1 million question today.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Is it more expensive to have a child and the expenses you have when they're younger or when they're older? Which one do you think is the greater?
I used to think younger was more expensive until they got older, and then there's cars and insurance and prom dresses and tuxedos and there's always a fee.
Sure.
I mean, I taught where my children were,
Right.
and they were all the time coming, Dad, I need a check. Dad, I need a check. Dad, I need a check.
Yearbooks. There's not many 3-year-olds asking for yearbook money. If they are, it's Doogie House.
But
So
we didn't buy one for the family. We bought 3
Oh,
because my wife wanted. Your brother must have really done a job on her, because she wants a yearbook for each child to have their own.
He probably
What
buried
did he took from? What yearbook did he take from her?
he
that
probably
she wanted?
hid it somewhere. It's probably still buried somewhere today.
In Outer.
Probably.
But all my children have a yearbook for every year they were in school.
Well, that's a good memento that they'll put in a rubber tote and put in a storage
They're
building
still on
one
the
day.
shelf at my house. They
Well,
didn't
that's
take
good.
them to their home yet.
Well, see, they'll get those one
Someday.
day. Sure.
Someday.
And they'll be glad they have those when they're 40 and 50 and 60 and things
Look
like
back.
that. Sure, absolutely. But they do get more expensive.
They do
Statistically,
get more expensive.
Well, we have chased a lot of rabbits today.
We've chased them. I'm sorry.
I think that, when you have stress at work and then you try to do a conversation that's going to be recorded and structured, you just forget.
And your
about it.
videographer was late. It's the best you can
He
do.
keeps blaming him, and it's not his fault. We just can't keep him.
Sorry.
So children are more expensive the older they get.
So you agree with me?
I agree with you, and you're correct. And you would think that babies would be the most expensive because you have a bottle of formula, $30, lasts you 3 or 4 days. You've got to buy a lot of those. But it's a simple fact that you spend so much on feeding that 120 or 130 pound teenager that's walking around your house looking confused all the time and probably smells a little bad. Then you got to have body wash.
Well, there's
to wash them
braces.
with.
And then they want
Braces.
contacts.
Yes, and then they want to play sports, and then they want to go to the pool, which $3 to send them to the pool is pretty cheap, right? You can
Yeah.
bathe them, send them with a bottle. No, don't do this. Bottle of body wash and tell them, hey, David's up there, he's at the pool.
No. What I was going to say is when they play sports and you go watch them play, it's like $6 to get in every game, and you want popcorn and a drink, and
Sure.
so it just gets more expensive the older they
Drop
get.
$40, right?
Easy.
Right.
Easy.
Because you've got to pay for everyone to get in.
And usually after the game, their kids are starving on the way home, and you got to go through a drive-through. And you've been telling us, don't eat out, cook at home, and they're starving. They can't wait.
What if you? This is just an idea. What if you cooked a meal before you went? Something that's finger-friendly foods. Packed it in a cooler, a very good cooler. Don't put it in a one of the styrofoam coolers. Put it in a good cooler, and then when you get to the car, boom, there's you some chicken.
Let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, he's never had children because no one wants the same thing. They're all finicky. They want their own thing. You go through 3 different drive-thrus.
You're going to tell me that you can't force them just to do whatever you want them to?
Good luck with that. I'm just going to say, good luck with that. So,
well,
when you have, some, you'll understand it doesn't work that way. It's a great theory.
Sure.
It's like the State Department of Education. They've got some great theories, but putting them in practice into place is a little difficult.
Application's not always the best
there,
right?
Thank you.
Well, and I've always heard that the expert on raising children are those who do not have them.
It's like learning to swim by reading a book. You don't know how till you get in there and try.
Right, and the best way to go sometimes is to be thrown in the water. So what David's trying to tell you is have a bunch of kids.
I didn't say that.
That's what he's saying. You know what? By having a bunch of kids, that segues us into the next part of this.
Okay.
Right.
You got us to the next part.
I did.
Thank you.
I had to really stretch for that.
Okay, I'm glad you did.
So would it be better to have one child and save money, or would it be better to have 10 children and save money? Which one's going to save you the most amount of money?
You're putting me on the spot, but I'm going to say it's easier to have a few children. I won't say 10. I would say a few children.
I thought you might have a small farm, so I didn't know.
Or a baseball team, football team.
One
of the things is the toys. They can play with the same toys. There are clothes that you can hand me down. Poor little Alex, our middle child, our youngest son, I think he wore hand-me-downs a long time.
Right.
We recycled those.
Sure.
But then we had a girl, and girls are more expensive because, number one, she couldn't wear the boys' clothes.
Right.
And number two, little girls have to have hair bows and socks and shoes, and it all has to match.
Sure. So if we can, let's look at slide 3.
Slide number 3.
Looking at slide, I've titled it Cheaper by the Dozen. And this is not just a funny Steve Martin movie.
Okay.
So even though I do find his comedy humorous,
funny.
But having children, more children, decreases the cost.
Okay.
And it's exactly what you said.
Hey, I hadn't looked at the slides before, so hey, I'm doing good.
You did very good.
Okay.
It's because you can use hand-me-downs.
Okay.
You can buy in bulk, because typically if you're going to buy an 8-pound pack of chicken, you might splurge for the 12 if you have a family of 4 compared to a family of 3. You're also going to be able to hand down toys, things like that. Now, the only part about that is you may, grow a younger child who has a little bit of maybe disdain. There's another word for
Disdain?
you. Yeah.
Okay.
Because their older sibling broke 2/3 of the toy before they got it.
Aren't you glad you were the oldest and your sister couldn't break all your toys before you got them?
She broke them anyway. We were 7 years apart, so in being the male-female ratio there wasn't a whole lot that we really shared.
Okay, she didn't like your G.I. Joes?
I was more of a He-Man kind of guy in Nintendo.
I could tell you stories, but we'll let that be another show.
Right. I'm not really sure what Heather was into. I don't even remember. I just know I wanted to be out of school and play baseball every day. That's all I cared about. So, but you can save money by having multiple children. Now, it needs to be said, this is a disclaimer I think that we need to broadcast. Maybe we need to televise this nationally. Maybe someone will pick it up.
I don't know about nationally.
Well, I do.
Okay,
I think so.
okay.
Because people in America
right
need to hear what we have to say.
Okay.
So, if you're going to have children, please be responsible for them. If you're going to have 5 to 10 children, please make sure that you're going to be willing to take care of 5 to 10 children.
Well,
we don't want them just wandering around everywhere.
It is a little scary when you have 2 and then you all of a sudden you realize you're going to have 3. Because, it's like, how am I going to feed them? How am I going to put them through school? How am I going to provide for them?
Sure.
But somehow it just works.
But you do increase your odds. One great odd you increase the more children you have is one of those children may be your retirement plan.
And by that you mean?
Well, if you have one child, you're banking everything on that child.
Oh, I see.
So if you have 2 or 3, like my parents, they could bank on my sister. So there you go.
Okay.
Maybe they saw that they're like, we'll just have to bank on the next child. So that brings us to
stock picks.
Say that one more time.
I stuttered on it. Stock something.
The stock
picks.
The weekly stock picks, which
That's
is one of my favorite
right.
parts. So let's look at our fourth slide if we can. I almost messed up there. The first one I have is Gabriella Equity Trust. Now,
What in the world is Gabriella?
This is a trust, and that's named after the firm that owns this.
Okay.
And the reason why I picked this is because this is going to be one that has a PE ratio, that's price per earnings ratio, of 28%. By the way, we're going to talk about that in a few upcoming weeks. And it offers a 2% dividend. Now, I know you may think 2% dividend, that's not that great, but this stock has very low volatility.
Okay.
So what I mean by volatility is you may see stocks take a really big jump or a really big loss. This one pretty much just gains at a very slow pace while you can gain dividends off of it.
Kind of like the tortoise and the hare. It's the turtle. It just keeps.
Stays on pace.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I was going to do just keep swimming, but I guess it stays on pace.
Turtles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fish. I don't
Whatever.
know.
The next one is IM Gold Corporation. ING is the symbol for that. It enables you to invest in gold without having to drop, $1,200 to buy your own ounce of gold.
Okay.
So
you buy gold without getting the gold?
Basically, you're buying gold. You're buying stock into a company that actually produces, mines, and manages gold trusts.
Okay.
So, and the price on theirs was $4.38 per share. So, we're again looking at stocks that are cheaper that you might want to come into entry level.
Remember, this is some of your mad money. We're not asking you to
not your
mortgage.
retirement fund.
No.
No, put that in a Roth IRA.
And remember, there's a great app. What's that app again?
Robinhood is the app.
Robinhood.
Put your retirement fund in a Roth IRA.
Okay.
So the next one we'll talk about, and this is a gamble. This is solely a gamble.
You're getting us to gamble?
I'm getting you to gamble on this one a little bit, but it's Under Armour.
I know that name.
Yes. UA is the symbol. Now, Under Armour is down around 52% for the year.
Wow.
So the amount that their stock is worth is down 52%. I think that it'll take a turnaround.
Okay.
Now, clothing is a lot like social media.
Mm-hmm.
When Snapchat went public, their stock started out at 24, it jumped up to 29, now it's down to more like 17, 18. So if you bought that at 24, you lost.
Yeah.
Well, clothing's the same because it's all trendy.
And if you get a bad spokesperson.
If you do get a bad spokesperson, that can hurt.
Yeah.
I do think, however, Under Armour making the products they do, they will come back in time.
Okay.
So the next one we're looking at is Ford.
Hey, my son just bought a Ford.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Ford has, I did not know that, by
Okay.
the way. Ford has just had a big turnover. Their CEO has been removed,
I saw that
and they're
on the news.
changing.
Mhm.
Their stock is down about 11% for the year, but I think they're going to have a turnaround. Their stock actually today, when I looked at it, was $10.87 a share. So it's actually not that expensive.
Okay.
They pay a 4% dividend, so you can still get a dividend
Which is a
off
lot
that.
better than the bank's paying.
Right, which is about 0.6, 0.75. And the last one is another equity fund. It's a Liberty All-Star Fund. This fund's about 3 years old, maybe. USA is the symbol, has a good symbol there.
USA, that's right.
Right, it offers a 2% dividend, but it consists of very strong companies. There's over 100 companies that this fund consists of, which include companies like Facebook, but it also includes Google, which is Alphabet. It includes Amazon. It includes Walmart. And there's a list of 100 companies, very low volatility because it's so diverse in the holdings that it has.
Okay.
And actually, the return on that Liberty All-Star Equity Fund for the last year has been 9%.
9%?
9% return.
That's really good.
So you can see a good return even though you're getting a good dividend to go with
And the
it.
funny thing is when we're talking about these, our camera guy pulls out his phone and looking at the Robinhood app, and he's increasing and buying and selling his wife's mad money.
Right, and I hope he had a better day today than I did. I didn't have such a great day today.
Well, I can tell you one thing, he had a nice long lunch.
Well, maybe he had some good stock buys and sales, and so he decided he'd treat himself.
I told him I wanted a check. He said, I thought you got a check. Yeah, zero. Zero check. I got a pay raise today.
Before we go, have you been using your envelope system?
I ran across those again, but I will tell you.
That would be a no.
I will tell you, I was coming home from the rehab facility where my mother is. We've had some issues with her. But I didn't go out to eat because I was saying...
Medical issues.
He was going to say, you need to save your money. Go home and eat what you got in the refrigerator. And that's exactly what I did.
So it's like that little voice that's Jiminy Cricket.
It's in my head.
Yeah,
in my head.
conscious.
Hey, thank you for watching The Money Tree. We hope you'll join us again. Tell your friends.
Like us on Facebook.
See ya.